Hello, and thank you for joining us. The Southeast Mental Health Technology Transfer Center is pleased to present today's webinar event with Dr. Michelle Salyers entitled Breathe Module 3, Connecting with Colleagues. My name is Emily Moore, and joining me in moderating today's event is Dr. Benjamin Druss, Director of the Southeast Mental Health Technology Transfer Center. Please note that the work of our center is supported by a grant from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, or SAMHSA. Our center and the larger MHTTC network use affirming, respectful, and recovery-oriented language in all activities. The Southeast Mental Health Technology Transfer Center is proud to serve the 8 states in HHS Region 4. Our expertise in public health programs, systems, research, and evaluation provides a unique lens through which we can address mental health priorities. We encourage you to visit the Southeast MHTTC website to learn more about our center and our upcoming events. A few important notes to review before today's event. This event is being recorded and will be made available on our website for on-demand viewing soon. We encourage you to share your comments throughout the presentation using the chat feature. Please remember to select Chat with all attendees if you would like to share your thoughts with everyone. We have allotted time at the end of our presentation to answer some questions. Please submit your questions using the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. Finally, for participants who are interested, a certificate of attendance is available for download after completion of our evaluation surveys. I'll now hand it over to Dr. Druss so he can introduce today's speaker.
Thanks so much, Emily. It is my pleasure to reintroduce Michelle Salyers, who will be presenting the third in a 3-part series about burnout. Michelle Salyers is a professor of psychology at Indiana University, Purdue University, Indianapolis. She directs the ACT Center of Indiana, a collaboration of academic and community partners, including researchers, administrators, clinicians, consumers, and family members who share an interest in recovery-oriented, evidence-based practices. The goal of her work is to help adults with severe mental illnesses live meaningful lives in the community. Her research addresses both consumers of mental health services and the providers of those services. She's increasingly targeted the interaction of consumers and providers, looking for the best ways to support relationships that promote recovery and well-being. Her current work involves developing effective ways to reduce staff burnout and to increase shared decision-making in mental health care. And with that, Michelle, I will turn it over to you.
Great, thank you. Let's see. Okay. Great, I think my screen is up now. Thank you for that introduction, and it's great to be back again for our 3rd session together. Whoops, it's not moving. Okay. And I wanted to welcome you and welcome back people who may have been here before. And we have a short poll to put up so we can see who's with us today. So if you could take a moment and pick which one best describes you. And then when we're done, Stephanie can share it back with us so we can see how many people are new or if you've been here before. Okay, so most of you were with us either last week or the week before, and some of you have tried a new action step. So that's great. If you could, if you feel like sharing in the chat function, just type in briefly, what is one thing that you tried? so we can kind of see what kinds of activities have people been working on. Oh. And deep breathing, getting out in the weather. That's great. So these are some easy, quick things that you might be able to do. Taking a short walk, disconnecting when it's not work hours. Oh, nice. Scheduling different things by time of day. It's great to see different activities people have been trying. Hope that those are working out well. So today, our plan, we'll start with another contemplative practice. So we'll do a refresher using a different imagery exercise. And then we will focus a little bit on the role of colleagues and community, the people we work with every day, our clients in particular, the role of people in our burnout and well-being at work. And then we'll talk through some strategies to connect better with our colleagues. And we'll end with a few ideas on helping put our plan into place so that we can better integrate it with our regular work life. Okay, so some reminders to try to first disconnect for the hour from other things in your workday, if that's possible. So we're all doing this through technology, but if you can try not to do texting or emails or those kind of things, so that you can really just focus and be present and work on your own wellness for today. And the second thing is we always talk about trying to be open to new ideas and trying things out. So we'll have some actual exercises that we can do together. And these may be things that are totally new to you. And for some people, they may be things you're already have learned about, but maybe it's in a new way. So we encourage you to try them out and see what works for you. And if you're not in the place right now to try them out, to try them at home later and see how it might be helpful for you. And as we have before, we'll have some time to reflect and briefly write some things down. And so it might be helpful for you to have a pencil or a pen and some paper nearby. So we will first start with a contemplative exercise to kind of get us in a good place where we're more relaxed. And for those of you who've been here before, this is where we're going to do our diaphragmatic breathing or our belly breathing to get started. And for those of you who are new, when we're talking about diaphragmatic breathing or belly breathing, we're talking about a way to use our bodies to get more air and oxygen into our lungs. That gets the oxygen into our blood. It slows down slows down everything. Our heartbeat, we feel more relaxed. And so when we do that, you're using your tummy muscles to pull in the air, and you hold it briefly, and then you use your muscles to contract in your stomach to expel the air back out. And so your chest should not be going up and down as you're doing this deep breathing, but instead your belly will come out and in. So when you breathe in deeply through your belly, hold it, and then breathe out. So if you're in a place where you can take some of those deep breaths, we'll do that, but I'm also going to do a guided imagery where I'll walk you through a way to imagine a different way to think about our stressors so that we can kind of put them in a different perspective. And so if you're in a place where you can get comfortable and close your eyes, that's great. or you can just have kind of a soft focus on the screen. And you can take a few of those deep cleansing breaths to breathe in and breathe out. As you breathe in, notice how the air feels as it's coming in and how it feels as it's coming out. You might notice the temperature and how it changes when you inhale and when you exhale. So as you're breathing deeply, I'd like you to bring to mind a stressful situation, maybe a moderate one for you now. Imagine how big the stressor looks to you. If you can, try to determine the size and weight of the stressor. You might imagine putting it in a box or wrapping it in a ball. It might be large, might be small. Think of the room you're in. Where would that stressor be? And how big would it be? Now, as you're taking your deep breaths, I'd like you to think about your stressor from a different perspective in time, at a point further ahead. What does your stressor look like a month from now? How big is it then? Take another deep breath and imagine your stressor a year from now. Looking back at it, how big is it now? Now take another deep breath and imagine looking back when you retire. How big will it be then? You might even think about at the end of your life, or even after you die. How big will your stressor be then? Now take another deep breath or two, and when you're ready, you can join us again. So that perspective exercise, usually people find that the further out you go, the smaller your stressor becomes when you start taking a different perspective on it. And you can also try this exercise thinking of yourself maybe in terms of space. So from a different room or from a different building, how would your stressor look? Or if you were at the top of a mountain, or maybe from the moon. And that might help give you a little bit of different perspective on our stressors. Okay, and hopefully the breathing and the slowing down helps get us in a more relaxed place as well. And we'll shift our attention for a little while to talk about colleagues and community and what role they play in our burnout and well-being. And in our first session, we talked about the APA study of work and health. They looked at the types of activities we do and our average happiness ratings and how much time we're doing them. And when they asked about who we're interacting with, you'll see we're happiest with our friends, relatives, and children. but we tend to be least happiest with our boss, or alone. And I always wonder who those people are. I like, as an introvert, sometimes being alone is refreshing for me. But having the coworkers, the boss, the clients, those tend to be our lower levels of happiness. And we tend to spend more time with those people. And so where is the breakdown or the disconnect? And I think we can look at 3 key areas. One is a lack of civility or respect. And there's been a lot of public discussion about incivility and respectful or lack of respectful interactions. That's become a big focus. But there's been a lot of research as well in workplaces on incivility. I think another area where we have difficulties are avoiding crucial conversations or difficult conversations. And so we'll talk a little bit about some ideas of how we might have difficult conversations with people in a more effective way. And then we also lack the time and energy and maybe the resources to build relationships at work. We're all so busy, we're putting out fires, we're tired. So we don't have time to do the social gatherings that might help energize us or give us some support. So overcoming incivility in the workplace. Incivility is defined as low intensity, kind of deviant behavior, but it's ambiguous whether the person means to harm you or not. And that ambiguous part is important, that it's not outright bullying or aggression, but things that might happen where you might say to yourself, that's strange, or that was rude. And you might see that in interpersonal issues. If you walk by someone and they don't say hi, or someone cuts in line in front of you, or cyber incivility. So we spend a lot of time on email now, and when people don't reply, or maybe they send a really blunt or terse email, that can be incivility. And then there's victimless incivility, people who don't refill the coffee, or they leave paper or trash on the floor, things like that. It's different from aggression or bullying, but it can lead there. So when you have a lot of incivility and people start to feel resentful, and they might act back. And so we need to look at what role do we play in that. And I think a really nice way to think about this, kind of a metaphor, is this ladder of inference. And last time we were together, we talked briefly about kind of the underpinnings of cognitive behavioral therapy, where it's not the event that leads us to feel bad, but that middle part where it's our thoughts or our beliefs and how we interpret the event that really leads us to feel bad. And this ladder of inference kind of takes that a little bit further, and it shows us that we all experience the world. We see data around us. We select what data to observe and focus on and think about, and we add meanings to that data, maybe from our personal life or our culture, what we grew up with. We make some assumptions, and we might draw conclusions based on that. And that helps us adapt our beliefs about the world. And we might take actions based on our beliefs. And these actually feed back so that we observe data in a different way. We begin to focus on certain things based on our beliefs. And I have an example here of how we might think about that at work. So we can take a piece of data. We're walking into the office, and we notice the supervisor walks by without acknowledging me. We add meaning to that. She must be mad. And then we might make an assumption. It must be something I said that made her mad. We draw a conclusion. She thinks I'm too outspoken. And we might believe she's not going to treat me fairly at my upcoming evaluation. So I'm going to just start looking for a new job. And this seems kind of extreme, but if you think about it, there are many times where we tend to maybe jump up the ladder, that you can take maybe a potentially innocuous situation that someone walks by without acknowledging you, and we've already built it up into a bigger thing. So what can we do about it? Well, we might question our assumptions. Is she mad or is she just preoccupied? Have we interpreted it the right way? Even if she were mad, is it necessarily that she's mad at you? Maybe someone cut her off on the way into work. And does being mad automatically mean she's going to unfairly rate us? So we can question our assumptions or our conclusions at each step of the ladder. But we can also look for contrary data. Were there other things we missed? So thinking about when you saw her in the morning, was something else maybe going on? And we can also check in with her. And we'll get to that in a little bit about how you have those kind of conversations. But so we can think about how do we deal with incivility? So when we have it happen to us, the first thing I always think about is taking a deep breath. So you want to slow down and check our place on the ladder. Have we made some kind of assumption? And then we can also gain some perspective. So we might try to see if we interpreted that correctly. And we might ask the person, I noticed this. Can you help me understand what might have happened? Another thing that we can think about is to turn to wonder. So when things get tough, sometimes I say to myself, I wonder what might have happened to that person today. And so you're taking it out of your own emotional response and just wondering what is going on with this situation. And that sometimes can help. Another thing that might help when you're having incivility is to focus on the problem at hand and not how it feels. And this tip actually comes from one of my a physical trainer that I worked with for several years on exercising. And when I was doing something that was especially challenging, she would say, focus on what you need to do, not how it feels. And I think that can apply to so many things in our life as well. And then if you're still having some difficulty with people and incivility, you can seek support from colleagues or a supervisor. Now, what do we do when that incivility comes from the people we work with, our colleagues? All of the things on the last slide can help that, but also we can work ourselves on focusing on how to make a positive culture and a safe space for people at work. So one way to do that is for us to be much more thoughtful about our civility and respect and how we treat other people. And Gandhi is often quoted as saying this, but I don't think he really said it this way: to be the change you want to see, right? So if you want to be in a respectful, happy place, interact that way yourself. A small thing you can do, sending mindful emails. So sometimes even just taking a deep breath as you're writing your email, reread it before you send it. Small things like that can make a difference. And then the next three things that we'll talk about, having those conversations, difficult conversations, building relationships, and seeking social support can also help. So Crucial Conversations. This is one of my favorite books that I think is really helpful for having difficult conversations. And it's short. You can read it in a weekend or maybe even an afternoon. And they are focusing on conversations that they call crucial. That's when the stakes are high, like it's an important outcome for you, whether it's whether or not you deserve a raise or how we're doing the treatment plan for this particular client. And you feel like it's really important that I have this conversation, but you know that people have different opinions about it. And there may be strong emotions involved. And that's what they call crucial conversations. And they talk about how our response, our natural response to those kind of difficult conversations is either, they say, silence or violence, but it's avoiding talking about it, or we want to confront it. And it's kind of that fight or flight response when we think about stressful interactions. But they talk about a third way. So instead of avoiding these conversations or being really confrontive about it, to think about how we can do this through dialogue. And they recommend we first think about starting with the heart. What is it I really want out of this conversation? Do I want to be right? Or do I want us to move forward on this topic? You can identify threat. What that means is really just recognizing when you or other people are feeling threatened. Is the other person starting to be defensive? Are they rolling their eyes? You can notice when it seems like things are escalating, that's when you want to maybe back off or make an empathic statement. And you want to make it safe to talk. So you focus on the mutual purpose and convey respect when you're talking to each other. So we both want to see this client succeed, and kind of reminding what is that mutual purpose? What is it we both want out of here? And so they have a little acronym that we can help. They say STATE. So you first share your facts. And that's, if you think back to the ladder, what are those observable things? What did you notice? What did you see? And then you can tell your story. I noticed this, so I thought maybe you were mad at me, or I thought maybe this was happening. And then you ask for the other person's ideas, and you want to be tentative and encourage that testing. Did I get this right? Can you help me understand this? And having conversations in that way really makes it safer for the other person to contribute to that too. And so we can go back to that ladder example at work and how we might have this conversation if it was our boss. And so we might say, I noticed this morning when you were walking in, you didn't seem to see me. So I thought maybe you were mad at me. Did I get this right? And when you have those kind of conversations, your supervisor might be able to share with you. One thing about these conversations, you want to have the conversation when you're both ready to have it. And so you probably wouldn't want to do this at a staff meeting, right? You want to be in a place where the person is alone. Maybe you could ask, I had something I wanted to run by you. Do you have a few minutes here? And so you have these kind of conversations when both of you are ready to have them. But that Crucial Conversations book is really can be helpful in a number of different domains, not just at work, but can help in those areas, other areas too. So aside from having those difficult conversations, we want to think about, well, how can we build relationships? And I love this quote from Abraham Lincoln: I don't like that man. I must get to know him better. And Abraham Lincoln was known for bringing in people who had very different ideas to help him lead the country. And part of that was to get to know people. And once you start to know people, you can develop relationships in a different way. So how do we do that? So if you have people at work that you have a lot of conflict with, you want to start to try to get to know them outside of that conflict and look for common ground. maybe you could have lunch or do a coffee break. Maybe there's a shared project you could work on. One thing I've talked about, I think maybe in both of the last two sessions, was this idea of starting meetings with sharing something. Maybe what's one thing that you feel grateful for? Or what's one thing you're looking forward to this weekend? And you start to get to know people and what's important to them. And that can help build relationships. And also giving positive feedback. When people do something that's good, you want to give them feedback. And we know from the literature that positive feedback works best when it's timely. So soon after somebody does something, when it's specific, and the more detailed you can be very helpful. Not just great job, but I really appreciated the way that you were so receptive to that angry client this morning. That was really helpful. So trying to be a little bit more specific, but also being genuine. What is it that you noticed and how did you feel about it? It's very helpful. And even just saying thank you for things. And I put it there as just, but saying thank you for things can be very helpful too. So I'd like you to think about, what is one thing that you appreciate that a colleague recently did? So you might reflect on that, and if you have a piece of paper, you might write down, what is it that a colleague did recently that you really appreciate? And if you want to put it in the chat, that could be fun too, is to see what kinds of things are happening out there that you really appreciate. So feel free to share it in the chat too. But I'd also like you to think, have you shared this appreciation with them? And if not, it's not too late. Positive feedback works best when it's timely, but even if it's late, it's better than not at all. So I would encourage you to share back with your colleagues something that you have appreciated. Okay, it looks like some people, supervisors sent a gift card, other people are being there for support. Yeah, great. So if other people have things that you appreciate and want to share, go ahead and put those in the chat. Okay, so what do we do when our relationships seem stuck? So sometimes I get that question. What do you do when you're having a lot of difficulty with someone? Well, one thing you can do is just radical acceptance. And that's kind of a Buddhist approach, that it is what it is, and we just accept it. And you might take a longitudinal perspective. And so kind of like that exercise we did at the beginning, you could think about, how important is this relationship for me going to be a year from now, 5 years from now, or when I retire? And maybe it can be less stressful that way if you think about it in a more longitudinal perspective. And another area is forgiveness. And there's a lot of research that shows that when we can forgive other people and when we can forgive ourselves, that can go a very long way to better mental health. And you can do that not necessarily face to face. You could write a letter, and you don't even have to mail the letter. Some of the research shows that just the act of thinking about something that went wrong, a relationship that seems problematic, when you can write it out and really give forgiveness to the other person, even without sharing it with them, it can be helpful too. The other thing we can do is think about, where is our social support? Who can we talk to about our dreams and our joys, our stresses related to work? And so I'd like you to think about that. Is there someone in your, maybe in your organization, somebody that you see that you can talk to, or maybe it's somebody outside of your organization, but they do a similar type of work that you might be able um, to talk with. And maybe you could ask that person to be a balance buddy, someone you can talk to on a regular basis to help you stay on the path of well-being. And when I was working with my colleagues, Gary Morse and Angie Rollins on this, Breathe, we used to have monthly meetings, and we would always start with a balanced check-in about how things were going. And when we talk to each other now, we still do that, but we don't do it on as regular basis as we used to. But that can be a very helpful thing when you have someone else who understands what you're going through, and that you can have a check-in together. Okay, so I'd like us to take time to do a second contemplative exercise. And this is a way that it can help us connect with other people. And it's a loving kindness meditation exercise. And so people who've been through mindfulness trainings have done these kind of practices before, I'm sure. But I'd like to do that with you. So if you can get into a comfortable position, if you're in a place to do that, and maybe close your eyes or take a soft focus on the screen. And take a few of those deep breaths, breathing in through your tummy and slowly breathing out. And notice how the breath feels as it comes in and out. As you're taking your deep breaths and you're feeling your body relax, I'd like you to imagine your source of loving kindness. This might be a person in living or in the past. It might be a religious figure. Whatever your source of loving kindness is, bring that to mind and let the feelings of loving kindness be within you from whatever source you choose. Let the loving kindness surround you and suffuse you. Let yourself feel nurtured. Wish yourself well with feelings of happiness and well-being. And as you breathe in that loving kindness and say to yourself, may I be filled with loving kindness. Now think about someone you love, someone you want to share loving kindness with. Say to yourself, may feelings of loving kindness extend to this person. May they be filled with loving kindness. Send them loving kindness as you wish that they experience love and acceptance and grow and be happy. Now think about someone you're concerned about, someone who might be in need of extra loving kindness. Say to yourself, May the feelings of loving kindness extend to this person. Send them loving kindness as you wish that they experience love and acceptance and grow and be happy. As you take another breath, come back to your own source of loving kindness and feel the warmth of their loving kindness replenish you. So bask in that loving kindness and take another breath or two, knowing that those feelings of loving kindness are back with you as well as those you've extended to. And when you're ready, you can come back to the group. So that was a quicker version of loving kindness meditation, but it's a way that you can feel connected to a source of love and that you can connect with other people as well. So I'd like to spend a few more minutes just thinking about how we can put our plan in place. So what are some strategies, your renewal or self-care strategies that you can do to bring renewal and enhance your resilience at work? And think about how they're working. And this time together is short, but after the session, I'd like you to think about, can you reflect more on what's working well for you and what maybe that we've talked about these last 3 weeks could be helpful for you to incorporate. And you might think about, how do you put those into your day? And so these are some ideas that you might think about. You could take, for example, a daily intention on your way into work. Some of us aren't leaving our house to work. So for those of us, maybe it's when your computer pulls up, we take some deep breathing exercises. When you are at work, maybe to remind yourself when someone is walking through the doorway to see and greet the good of the person who's walking through. Finding ways to reconnect with your meaning and values. What is it that you get out of your work? And vitamin D breaks for the soul. And I think someone in the chat said that earlier, that they have gotten outside in the sun. So taking some time outside. So in order for us to have a wellness plan, you have to take time to make a plan for yourself and write it down. And then keep your plan handy or visible. So when you write down your plan, if you just file it away, you're not going to be reminded of it. And so you might think about, can I put it on my refrigerator, or can I put it on my office desk or something like that? And you want to evaluate how your plan is working. Am I feeling less stressed? And if not, you might want to tweak or revise your plan. So that brings us to the end of kind of our new things for today. But as the last 2 weeks, I always like to end with an action step. And what is one thing you want to take away from today that you would like to incorporate in your life? And when you write it down, if you can be specific, something that is measurable and achievable, this is one thing that I'd like to do this week. And if you feel like sharing, you can open the chat and put in the chat that you want to reply to, let's see, panelists and attendees so everyone can see. What is your action step you want to take away from today? So it looks like Suzanne wants to walk for 30 minutes every day. That's great. That's something that I've been trying to do in the mornings too. Okay, so that brings me to the end of today. So we have time now for questions. And if there's more, if people want to share about their action steps in the chat, learn how to self-pace, someone is saying. You can do that. Take lunch every day. A lot of people work through lunch. I know that I have been guilty of doing that myself. So taking lunch, spending time outdoors. Oh, great. Meditating each morning. That's a great thing when people can meditate. Flowers, enjoying your flowers. Yeah, in the spring, that's always so fun to see them. Leaving work on time, setting intentions, that's great. Oh, martial arts, that's another good one. That's a very mindful activity, I think. Brings those, integrates those. Great. Emily, do we have any questions? I don't see any in my screen.
Yeah, we don't have any questions in our Q&A feature yet. I think that people are still putting in their intentions and what they plan to do for the coming weeks into the chat feature. But everyone, we have reached the Q&A portion of today's webinar. So if you do have a question for Dr. Salyers, please feel free to put it into the Q&A portion at the bottom of your screen, and I will read those questions in the order that they are submitted. So we'll take a couple of minutes now for that.
Okay. Oh yeah, it looks like someone is asking for my email. I'll put that in the chat function. Yeah, if there are things that I have talked about or you want to see the studies that I've cited, things like that, feel free to email me. I really miss these this interaction with people who are out in the real world doing this sort of work. I used to do a lot of technical assistance and meeting with people in community mental health centers. And so it's fun to be able to be helpful. So please feel free to email me if you have questions or things you'd like to see after.
Thanks so much. Thanks for sharing. Our first question, we do have two questions now in the Q&A feature. And the first one is, can you go back to the slide about mini breaks? So if it's okay with you, Dr. Salyers, I'll stop sharing and you can go back to that slide.
Sure. Let's see. Go back. Whoops, end of the slide. Okay. Yeah, mini retreat rituals. Different things that you might be able to do. One thing that I have done, you can buy little things like this, but I have written things like these on a little slip of paper, and then I put it in a bowl. And so when I need a little stress reliever or a little pick-me-up, you can pick something out of your bowl. And that's kind of fun to do as well. So you can write down some little ideas like walk around the building or take a deep breath and make an intention for today, something like that. And you can put them in a little bowl and just pick them out and try them out.
All right, thanks so much. I'll go ahead and share my screen again.
Okay.
Awesome. And we do have one more question in the Q&A feature. It's for us at the Southeast MHTTC, and it's how can we first-timers get the first 2 modules? Those first 2 modules are recorded and archived along with the slides on our website. So that is mhttcnetwork.org/southeast. And if you go to the website and you look in the product catalog, you will find Breathe Module 1 and Breathe Module 2, and you'll be able to access those recordings and the archived slides right there in our product catalog. And this webinar will also be put in that product catalog in a couple of days, along with Dr. Sawyer's slides for Module 3.
Great. Yeah, and hopefully the slides will be helpful from the other sessions too. I have some little summary bullet points that might be helpful for you too.
Well, I don't see any other questions in the Q&A feature. Before we go ahead to the evaluation portion, Dr. Sawyers, do you have any closing remarks or comments concerning this module and our last 3 weeks together?
Great. Just that I think it's really important for us to take the time and be intentional about our own well-being, and that in the mental health field, it really is hard. It sometimes feels selfish for us to do that, but in order to be able to help other people, our cups need to be full, or at least mostly full. And so we need to spend time replenishing our own energy and doing things that are meaningful and important to us so that we can be better at serving others. And so I hope that by thinking about different contemplative exercises you might do and how we think about our work and manage our time and connect with each other, that those can be helpful resources for you. And I'd like to just thank everyone for your time and your attention and sharing with us through the chat the things that you're working on. And feel free to reach out to me. I really do like to be helpful to people. So I look forward to hearing from you.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Sawyers. Thank you for spending the last 3 Tuesdays with us and for leading us through this wonderful module series. We will go ahead to the evaluation portion of today's event. So the Southeast MHTTC would like to thank you for your participation in today's event. We value your feedback and invite you to evaluate us today. Please complete a brief SAMHSA required survey by visiting the link presented on your screen. Completion of this survey will provide information to SAMHSA and assist us in planning future events. Afterwards, you will be automatically redirected to additional questions from the Southeast MHTTC regarding the impact of this event on your knowledge and skills. There you will have the opportunity to download a certificate of attendance for your records. Please allow 5 to 10 seconds for your browser to redirect you. Again, our center appreciates your participation and feedback. We hope you will join us for future events. Please visit our website to learn more. I'd like to thank Dr. Sawyers once more, and that will conclude today's presentation. Thank you.